Any other comments on the great unwinding generally? And obviously, like this has really kind of hit a fever pitch point here with the geopolitical situation. It seems to have unwound everything very quickly. Any other comments on the great unwinding?
The unwinding is going to be, I think, it started already. It started because of pricing. The pricing began to, and the this issue of cost of capital beginning to rise and becoming more and more difficult to justify record valuations. So we saw some of that in 2021. The second portion of that, I think, comes from fundamentals, where you start seeing a squeeze of margins and profit margins being at peak levels right now, or earnings at peak levels. And that's what happens with Wall Street. Wall Street has this unrealistic expectations after we reach those levels. And it's sort of what we're seeing right now. So I think we'll continue to see that. But we're going to hit the reality where we're starting to see some data points showing that margins are going to get squeezed by energy prices, but also wages and salaries. So we're looking for companies that may perhaps still have pricing power, but might have issues when it comes to wages and salaries too, and may not be able to raise prices as fast as other as those costs are rising. And so I think that's going to create a problem when it comes to fundamentals of the aggregate fundamentals of equity markets in the US. I think junk bond yields is one way to kind of see that leads to bankruptcies with a 6-month lead. We may see bankruptcies coming back. When we think about why we haven't seen so many bankruptcies, most of that has been because of government intervention. How much can the government continue to intervene when you have an inflationary problem? Those are going to be issues we're going to have to resolve. If we want to have this level of intervention, that's fine. Then we're going to have inflation. So that's, I think policymakers are still having to deal with that. That all means that commodities to equities will rise in this environment, because either they will prop up the equity markets and allow the inflationary problem to get worse, so more folks will be trying to hedge the inflationary problem, or they're going to fight inflation issue and re-rate equity markets much lower, which would cause equities to rise relative to commodities to rise relative to equities. So that's the way I'm thinking. I'm not trying to have the certainties, but just letting those constraints kind of help me to position the portfolio. So we're very long commodities, and we're short equity markets in specific parts. What are the companies that have free cash flow relative to employees, number of employees that is very low, meaning that they need a lot of employees, that wages and salaries is going to squeeze their margins in a large way? What are companies that have operational costs relative to sales that are going to be squeezing them in a large way? Think about the interest expense with cost of capital rising and junk bond yields rising. It's going to be difficult for you to pay down that debt. So balance sheets are going to matter, which they haven't mattered for many years. And so those are all things we got to think about. The unwinding, that unwinding takes a long time to happen. But I think we're starting to see the first innings of that.